the first time I've used my voice. Please don't make it too much longer. Don't know how long I'm gonna stay sane.
But we will.
Well, Camilla and John are now happily married and with us now, and it's nice to see you. And so that was haunting video footage. Nice to see you looking healthy and well again. That must bring back memories, horrible memories, Camilla. How you went out there to Chechnya to work with the children and help kind of give them a childhood again, which had been robbed by the war. How did the kidnap and imprisonment come about?
Well, we've been working for 2 months and having brilliant results. I mean, just seeing these children smile again and learning to play, it was fantastic. And then we'd just come back from Moscow, where we had bought some more toys and things, and we'd renewed our visas, and we'd just arrived back at the house in Grozny. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, we were in bed, and we heard these angry voices just the other side of the wall, and we thought, something's up. So then we were just alert in the dark. And then the door was kicked in and a lighted bit of paper was thrown in, followed by a man with a gun and wearing a mask, saying, "Documenti, documenti." So, I mean, we knew then, of course, that something was going to happen. And I think I immediately thought of kidnap. I don't know about John.
And Westerners were seen, I mean, you didn't have 2 beans to your name, you were there to help, but Westerners were seen as lucrative kidnap victims, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the image that the Western world projects is actually richness. I mean, whenever you see a TV programme, be it American or British, you always see quite opulent, you know, lots of people have cars and driving around, they have nice clothes and they seem to be eating well.
So that was the motive. And you were held in horrible conditions, very small cells, together for 14 months. Yeah. You endured torture, mental and physical, during that time, and rape during that time. And you're here to talk about forgiveness. How come?
Well, I think forgiveness is about coming to peace within yourself, and it's about understanding the place of where the perpetrator of the violence is coming from. I mean, and so we initially started it in a way by creating a dialogue with our captors so that they saw us as human beings.
But this was a deliberate tactic by yourselves in order to be able to cope with what was happening to you, wasn't it? To understand why they were doing it to you.
Absolutely. Because you have to understand where they're coming from, and we knew they were terribly traumatised, these men. I mean, they'd been fighting for 2 years and in the blood and guts of war.
But surely, I mean, speaking on your behalf, I mean, I think you've been wonderful here, Camilla, but that's not an excuse or indeed a reason for what they perpetrated on you. I mean,
it's no
sexually
excuse.
attacked several times.
It's not condoning it. I mean, rape is one of the worst violations of a human being. And in fact, I get very angry about it, really, because I don't think it's always seen like that in many situations, you know, not just in that kind of situation, in everyday life. It happens all the time, unfortunately. But you cannot stay in that place of anger and bitterness. If you stay there, you're going to get ill yourself. And so you have to move through that. And
so who are you forgiving for? Excuse me for interrupting. Are you forgiving for you so that you can move on, or are you forgiving somehow for them?
It's not exactly for them. I mean, it was with Paunch, with the guy that actually raped me. I mean, what happened in the end was that really I was just so stressed, I just broke down, and we actually tried to keep our emotions out of it because we didn't know which way they would turn. And so, you know, he actually asked why and brought a dictionary, and I pointed out no sex, no violence. And he looked so shocked, and it was like he had seen me as a Western woman, free sex, but somehow this shocked him into realisation that actually, you know, I'm a human being.
What he was doing was very wrong.
Exactly. And
John,
so he didn't carry on.
You and Camilla are part of, and wonderful examples of, a thing called the Forgiveness Project, which is a group who talk about forgiveness and encourage us to do so. There's a link, actually, from our Heaven and Earth website if people want to know more about that. Do you think the rest of us in our lives can learn from you two and the huge amount of forgiveness you've had to bring to your lives? Can it teach us something, and if so, what?
Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, the Forgiveness Project is hopefully going on tour, and I would definitely recommend everybody to go and look at it and read the stories of all the people. There are 26 stories in there, and every single one will either bring a lump to your throat or certainly make you think or provoke some tears.
And all those people have managed to forgive?
Not necessarily, but they're in process. It's really interesting. We went to the opening night, and there was a few stories told by the people from the exhibition, and we had the extreme of people who had actually got to the point of total forgiveness for themselves, and maybe the people who acted against them, and then right through to someone who felt that maybe they couldn't forgive, or they were fluctuating between, yes, I can forgive, and tomorrow, and then the next day they were angry again.
From society's point of view, why do we need to be able to forgive?
I think it's a very personal thing, and obviously that adds to society, because we all become part of the whole. We all are society as individuals.
Do you think it stops maybe a cycle of violence?
Well, definitely, because you're breaking the line of revenge when you actually manage to.
Okay.
You know, so, and which we actually saw in Chechnya. There was just conflict upon conflict, and as in Ireland as well, there was just revenge killing after revenge killing. And if you can actually stop that cycle and enter into conversation rather than firing missiles or bullets at each other, that's absolutely great.
Well, you're both a wonderful advertisement for it, and looking, thankfully, so much better than we saw in that tape, which we all remember from the news. Nice to see, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Now, a celebrity guest this week, Mo Mowlam, former Secretary of State for Northern Ireland and a People's politician. Earlier on, we heard her talking to Alice about her time as a member of the Cabinet. Although Mo is no longer a government minister, she's still a very busy woman. We rejoin the conversation as she talks to Alice about her family and her new role as an author.